Okay, I think I'm getting a signal that we're going to start. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right. So first of all, welcome to the Community Advisory Committee meeting, February 12th, 2026. I just wanted to make a comment before we get started. I don't know how many of you are listening or watching the online or a live version of our board meeting, not ours, but the CEA board meeting, or watching after our community advisory is done. And I've just noticed a very different acoustic ability from this room to when we were in Oceanside. So I want to encourage you. I was just listening to the board meeting the other day, and I missed a lot of it just because people turned up this way because of the way that the room is situated. So, and I know we're sharing mics as well. So I'm just encouraging you when you are live on the mic to lean in, make sure it's recording your voice, and then allow your neighbor to pull that mic over, you know, to talk as well. Because again, it's a different room, but the acoustics are really different in this room. Not a lot is picked up unless you're front forward to the mic. Okay, so with that, our first item is the recommendation to elect a chair and vice chair for 2026.
Sorry, I have to call.
First page. We have to salute the flag.
Yeah. And the black flag.
Oh, I'm just missing a page. Sorry. Let's get a roll call.
Board member, sorry, member Davenport,
Here.
member Daniel,
Here.
member Butchers,
Here.
member Zunigas,
Here.
member Nagamine.
Here.
Member Hood.
Here.
Member Norris.
Here.
Member Barham.
Here.
Member Casino.
Here.
Member Shea.
Here, thank you. And now we'll have the flag salute, and I think we will ask Kevin Norris to lead us in the pledge.
Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And do we have any public comment?
Congratulations.
We don't have any public comment.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 1. This is chair and vice chair elections. The recommendation is that we elect a chair and vice chair for 2026. I think you see in front of you the policy that it refers to the chair and vice chair of the Community Advisory Committee. And just for those of you who haven't been on for a long time, the vice chair or the chair used to be the alternative board member from a city on the Clean Energy Alliance board, and our board decided that it would be good if we were self-governing. We had our own elected, and so we've been functioning that way last year. So with that, I will open it up to conversation, nominations for chair and vice chair.
If I could, Chair Shea, just to remind the members of the committee that the policy states that members can serve 2 consecutive terms, no more than 2 consecutive terms. There are no limitations on how many 1-year terms you can serve. So each chair, the chair and vice chair, each serve a 1-year term and can serve 2 consecutive terms. Thereafter, they'd have to sit out, but then they could return to serve as chair or vice chair again. That mimics the policy for the board as well.
Okay, are there any nominations from the floor? Paige?
I'd like to nominate Deborah for re-election.
Okay, any
as
other?
chair.
Just for the record, I tried to ask Paige to be the new chair, but she would rather stay in the vice chair position. So we're having dueling nominations. Any other nominations for chair? None, okay. And I'm nominating Paige DeVita for vice chair. Is there any other nominations for vice chair? All right, are there any comments? All right, so we will take a vote on a slate of chair and vice chair. And this will be a second-year term for both Paige DeCino from Carlsbad and Deborah Shea from Solana Beach. So do you want me to run the vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Any abstentions? All right, the vote passes. I don't know if I should be happy or sad. Anyway, thank you again. There is a benefit from being on a lot of different boards to managing but we'll see how I do. So thank you for your trust in me, and I'll hopefully live up to your expectations. All right, so the next item is board organization update and work plan review. And the recommendation is that we will have a discussion of the adopted work plan and topic. And in front of you is the CAC 2026 work plan that was approved by the Clean Energy Alliance Board at their last board meeting. Is there any discussions? Any discussion, questions, clarity on this? This has been approved, so this will be our plan for 2026. Yeah.
I'm curious if you could share any more information about September's item, update on outside organization collaboration.
It might be good, again, going back to the way the cameras are and the configuration of the room, is if you state your name, your city, when you comment. I think that would be helpful. We'll see how it goes today and see if it's worth it. But go ahead, repeat your question.
Sure. This is Tracy from Escondido. And my question is, I'm just curious for September, update on outside organization collaboration. I'm just curious what that is.
Craig, do you want to answer that?
I believe the intent here, yes, Chair Shade, and thank you for the question. The intent here is that on a routine basis, staff as well as potentially committees of the CAC will engage with outside organizations. We do as a regular basis. We engage not only with member cities, but we engage with other outside organizations. And this is an attempt to come back and keep the CAC apprised of how we've been doing and what kind of interaction that has occurred, and also what that has yielded. So that's the intent of this item. And as I mentioned, depending on what the CAC in terms of their committees get involved in, there would be potentially some reporting as well from you all as to what kind of input you've received, questions that have arisen, and things like that. So that is in concert with, as you note on that agenda, the social media marketing efforts. That's also a staff-driven discussion about what our metrics and what seems to be yielding success and that kind of thing. So really, this is but this is an effort to advise the committee and discuss with the committee how the community at large is responding to CEA or program offerings, and what kind of collaboration we've been able to get involved in this year.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, on March 12th, our next meeting, unfortunately, I won't be here. I was accepted into that Energy Academy, and that's one of the days that we'll be in the training. And I noticed one of the first items is the subcommittee formation for this year's work. And I wanted to see if we actually have an idea already what ideas for the subcommittees, or is that what's being discussed at that meeting? I know the last meeting we had, we discussed ideas for potential projects for this year. So I wanted to see if there's a way I can understand what's going on and then maybe get some input prior to the meeting. That's what I'm interested in.
All right, I'm in the Energy Academy as well, so I will see you there, and, I don't know, are there other members that applied and were accepted into the Energy Academy? It looks like it's just, you were as well,
I did not apply, but I'm unfortunately going to be out of the country.
so you're gonna be out of the country.
But I have the same kind of concern as I would love to
Okay.
know.
I'm gonna be out of the country too.
Okay, I'm only saying that because if their members are not here because they're attending something that is related to this, is that date stuck? Do we have any flexibility on the March 12th date at all? Or do we need to keep it at that?
We have flexibility in as much as that, but that meeting, if we did change it, would have to be a special meeting. That's been advertised and posted and approved on the schedule. We can, what we can have Anna do is take a poll and find out how many people are either just in counting head count right there, it seems like 5. And so that still is a quorum, but it is an important discussion to answer, committee member Mosher's question. That is the intent for this item, is to discuss amongst yourselves what committee focus areas would apply to the work plan. I would suggest that absent changing the meeting, which we may, we will look into, comments directed to staff, not to the entire committee, keep in mind, but to staff about ideas for committees would be encouraged for the members who can't make it. But given that there's 5, including the chair, we will certainly take a poll and see if there's an alternative date that we can arrange, time and date.
I mean, if you are okay to doing a poll to see if there is an ability to move it, if not, I think you go the other route and provide some opportunity with feedback. But I think I don't know how the rest of the committee feels. You can hit your mic and just make sure you state your name and your state. I know I didn't do that either, but I think it's important the first time you talk that you have to introduce yourself.
Dan Dominguez, representative from Oceanside. I also will not be here on March 12th, I'll be out of the country.
I would propose we just move it to April. We don't have any meetings in April yet. So that might be a possibility.
So I guess, what I'm hearing is that we would like to have some sort of poll where we could pick a date and see if we can gather. And also, clearly, it reflects the room availability and then also staff's availability to be here. So once you clear those hurdles with dates, maybe send those dates and we can, how do you feel about putting it off a month? That's my first question. I'm moving it to April instead of just, because that, what I was gonna say about the Energy Academy is it's March, right? Yeah. So it might you may not get the other absences, but certainly the 2 of us will not be able to be on those Thursdays at that time.
We'll take a look at that, and that would be March 12th again, or the 12th rather, of March. So we'll take a look at that and make sure that the room's available, first of all, and that other staff are aligned with that date as well.
Okay, and it's gonna come up really quick, so as soon as we can turn that around. Okay, all right. Okay. And
I'm sorry,
go
March
ahead.
12th. We're talking about moving to April, so
Sure. Are you sure?
it would be April 9th.
So if we do move it to April, it would be the 9th, which
Yeah.
is typically the 2nd. But
Yeah.
I'm actually in the country that day too. I'm back and then have to do this.
Okay, Greg, what did you say? I missed your comment about it. It's talking about April.
April 9th, yeah, I misspoke when I was talking about the 12th. That was when it was supposed to be, because we were gonna have to, actually, we're gonna push it to April, yeah. So April 9th would be the date, but again, we'll see, we'll take a poll, maybe do a doodle poll about, some
Okay.
options.
And if you know that April 9th is the date, you get a straw poll today, right?
Sure.
Okay, so I don't know if everybody has their calendars, but do we have any super pinch point for April 9th? Okay, I think that's probably where we go. And then Anna, if you wanted to send something out, that's fine, but it sounds like we're landing on that date. Okay, any other comments? Yes, Paige?
I just had a comment, I guess, for Greg. I'm looking at May, the March, which is listed as March. Are we not covering that last topic today?
That'll be part of the presentation, but that'll also be, discussed at that meeting as well. It's intended to be ongoing.
I think the second one, the one for March is the survey result, right, versus just the, okay. Yes,
Yeah, that's very well from Delmar. I will not be able to attend the implementing meeting. Just one, because I'll be out of the country. Okay. Yeah, I have a trip in March and then have a different trip in April, but both of them. So
I wanna be you.
Okay, second that.
Our excuses aren't as fun as yours, okay. So I think we have some direction for staff. Right, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Roger Davenport from Oceanside. I've got a conflict of May meeting. Okay,
All right. We'll make note of that. All right, with that, I see no other discussion. We will move on to item 2. This is, item number 3, rate relief measures, and I believe that's you, Greg?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chair Fid and members of the committee. I want to present this item to you, and before I jump into the meat of this, just a refresher on power charge and difference adjustment, or PCIA. That's the, you can see up on your screen right now, the forecasted indifference amount plus the year-end PAVA balance. That's a portfolio allocation balancing account that IOUs have to, at the end of the year, see where all their costs came in. And that equals the PCIA revenue requirement, which gets factored into rates. And to determine the PCIA, you've got these calculations, and the basic calculation you see there at the top of this next slide is you take the value, the total cost of the utility portfolio less the market value of the portfolio, and that's the difference amount. And that amount is paid for by ratepayers, unbundled ratepayers such as CEA customers, as well as bundled customers, slightly different vintages. And so when you have a portfolio cost that is exceeding the market value, then it's a positive PCIA. If the market value goes up, and the costs are less, and there's a high market value, then you have negative PCIAs, and that's what in 2025 every residential customer in our service territory has. And that's why the PCIA last year was negative for all our residential customers. And so the other part of this is that the market price benchmark that factors into that, the market value. Last June, the PUC modified the methodology for calculating the PCIA, which resulted in not only PCIAs increasing slightly, but also has a look back to that will affect the 2025 PCIAs, and that's the subject of an appeal by CalCCA, by SECP and CEA to the PUC for an application for rehearing and appeal of that decision, as we believe it constitutes retroactive rating. So just know that the PCIA question is a hot topic right now, not only in actions already taken by the PCIA, but also in legislative actions that are moving forward in this current legislative cycle. In fact, it's the top priority of CalCCA as well as all of the CCA members of that, of Cal CCA. And recently, an author was found for a legislation to increase PCIA transparency. So right now, there's a lack of transparency in the calculation methodologies that the IOUs currently put into their PCIA determination. And we are looking for, as a collective group, more transparency into that rate-making process. So that's the PCIA. And what I'm here to tell you is that at the end of the last calendar year, through the error forecast, which is the process under which IOUs set their rates as well as PCIAs, they were finalized on December 31st. SDG's bundled customers will see an average increase of 14% on their rates, at about 1.5 to 3.1 cents per kilowatt hour, depending on whatever rate you're in. PCIA rates dramatically went up. So again, reminding you that all the member agencies on the residential side were negative PCIAs last year. Now they're all quite positive, and they increased an average of 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour for all the vintage years. And again, as a reminder, their CEA has 4 vintage years: 2017, which is Solana Beach; 2020, which is Carlsbad and Del Mar; 2022, which is Escondido and San Marcos; and 2023, which is Vista and Oceanside. As I mentioned, all of those PCIAs are now positive and very positive. And the highest change, the highest increase was in the 2023 vintage. And the 2020 vintage has now replaced Solana Beach 2017 as the highest PCIA, but only by a very small amount. So based on the current rates that we have, and adding that PCIA, all customers in our service territory are expected to see on a comparable basis higher monthly costs on average than SDG bundled customers in 2026. And I will add that this is not unique to SDG territory, that PCIAs across the state based on the changes to the market price benchmark calculations, as well as the market price of energy, both resource adequacy and renewable energy, which have come down dramatically. Ironically, that's a good thing, but when it comes that far down below the actual costs incurred by the IOUs, then the PCIA goes up. So it's sort of an unintended, or unintended, but an unfortunate consequence. So just to give you an idea of where we spread our customer base, as I'm sure you're aware, we have 3 product offerings. New customers are automatically enrolled in our Clean Impact Plus product offering, which is 50% renewable, 75% carbon free. And there you can see the lion's share of our customers are enrolled in that. We have 50% for Clean Impact product enrollment of 737, and our Green Impact enrollment is 1,473. Largely by virtue of the fact that 4 of our member agencies have increased their municipal accounts to Green Impact. So that's why that number is higher. So the proposal that we presented, and we had a discussion with the board at the last 2 meetings of the year, was to look at a way to provide some rate relief, with the understanding and knowing that these PCIAs were dramatically increasing, is to set our Clean Impact rate to a parity or better with the SDG on a monthly basis, and then give our customers the ability to opt into that or opt down to Clean Impact to realize that rate savings, and that would help customers who are challenged with their bills to be able to have comparable, and rather than opting out, the SDG have the same or better costs with CEA as they would with SDG. It was also recommended that this be a program for 2026, beginning on February 1st, and that we evaluate the number of opt-downs as well as where the PCIAs are going to have to end up next year. So this is, you're probably familiar with our joint rate comparison. This is sort of a version of that, and it shows on the upper left-hand corner, you can see the average residential customer. And in order to do this calibration and determine what would make parity, we had to look at the rate in which most customers enroll, both on residential and non-residential. TOUTR1 is that rate class for residential, and customers in that rate class for SDG would spend about $174.25 a month. And as we can see, if we did nothing, the upper part of this table shows where our ratepayers will be, averaging about $13 more per month, $14 during that time frame, or time cost frame. And so what that would be in, as compared to SDG, you can see the amounts of increase down below for each of our rate products across the board. It's more than the customers in SDG bundled customers would be paying. So what we did is for that, we approved, the board approved the rate relief credit. And as I mentioned, it's tailored, well, I haven't mentioned this, but it is indexed to our highest enrollment rate for residential TOUTR1. Got that slide got misplaced. And also to the highest PCI vintage, which is 2020. So we established a credit that will reduce the payments for the clean impact product to parity or better with SDG. So using the 2020 vintage year for Del Mar and Carlsbad customers, we established a rate relief credit that would amount to 3.87 cents per kilowatt hour. That was for residential customers. On the commercial or non-residential side, we looked at the highest enrollment enrolled rate, which is the TOUAS. It shows there are more than 80% of non-residential customers enrolled in that product or that rate class rather. And so the rate credit applied to the 2020 vintage would be 2.657 cents per kilowatt. And that would be again from February 1st to the end of the year. And what we end up with is the following comparison to SDG. Up there on the left, you see again 174.25, and I'd like to remind you that that is a product that is 41.4% renewable. So as part of our value proposition, we're above that on all our product offerings, including the clean impact 50% renewable. And by applying the credit to our residential customers down below in yellow, you see the rate benefit for our customers. So parity of the 2020 vintage on a monthly average, anywhere from 10 cents to $2.80 per month savings for all the other customers. And again, that would be a savings of $13 per month relative to the clean impact base rate. So looking at non-residential, sorry, something on here. The non-residential, we're just looking at the small commercial. There are 5 categories of non-residential. There's small commercial, there's medium and large commercial, agricultural, and lighting. But again, the largest percentage of our customers are in the small commercial. So this is the average per month cost that a customer might experience. You see up there FTG at $445.67 per month. And looking at the clean impact product, you can see that if we apply the rate credit, you'll see savings either parity at 2020 far right, or savings of 24 cents up to $8 per month for the other customers. When we were doing this work, we looked at all our rates and we recognized that one of the classes of non-residential agricultural rates seemed to be out of alignment with current rates. In as much as even with that rate credit of 2.6 cents per kilowatt hour on the non-residential side, agricultural customers would never hit parity or savings as compared to SDG. So as part of this, in order to have this benefit applied to all classes of customers, we recommended a reduction in the ag rate of 6.9% to recognize and realize that those customers were having realized the cost savings or parity with SDG. Understanding that there's only 291 customers in that rate class in our entire service territory, we thought this was a prudent and economical way to, an equitable way to address this. In reducing those rates by 6.9%, you can see the savings there. And there'd be savings in all vintage years, ranging from 12 cents to $8.22, depending on your vintage and location. One of the things that the board asked us to do in looking at this was evaluate what kind of costs this might have to CEA. As we provide these rate credits, obviously that will impact the amount of rate care funds we receive. And so we did that, and it had to make some assumptions in doing it. Sorry, get to that. Here's the savings for the ag customers. So looking at the financial impact, there you see the rate relief of residential customers down through the non-residential customers. The assumption we made would be that we could potentially see upwards of 30,000 opt-downs. Those are very conservative estimates, by the way. We don't expect to see that many, but if we did, we had a cost or a reduced revenue of $5.6 million. And then down the line, you can see for the non-residential customers, we assume that 20% of each of those rate categories would opt down. And you can see the cost allocation for those different non-residential customer classes for a total of about $10.6 million if all of those scenarios play out. And again, that's a high estimate, but it has been factored into our analysis. And then, as I mentioned, because there are only 291 agricultural customers in our entire service territory, that 6.9% rate increase amounts to about a $39,000 impact to the bottom line for CPA. One thing, or two things that I wanted to stress here that the board was keenly concerned and aware of, and that is our priority for two things. One, financial stability. So whether we look at rate cuts across the board for all rate classes, and it would take a sizable rate cut to offset that average 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour with PCIA and dramatically impact revenues such that we would be at risk of not being able to seek an investment-grade credit rating, which is something all CCAs strive to do. We are projected in our financial outlook that we'll be able to look for that credit rating in 2028. That is based largely not only on reserves, but also on days liquidity on hand. It's a metric that we have to watch not only for our own internal purchases, but for our compliance with our covenants with JP Morgan, our lender, as well as the PUC's evaluation of a CCA in good standing. And so if we were to do across the board rate cuts, we would dramatically reduce that and be at risk of not meeting those covenants. So applying the rate credit to a rate class, the product of clean impact was a preferred option to give customers who are struggling or seeking to opt out an option to stay with CEA. We plan to market this on a basis where we're targeting this targeted marketing effort to customers who could use the rate relief. We do have a social media marketing plan that we're rolling out. We are providing the information on this rate relief credit to our board members so they can pass it on to their respective city councils as well as social media blasts to let people know about this option. The other thing that I also want to stress is, so there's this balancing act there and on the financial side of maintaining financial viability, but offering the rate benefit or rate credit, rate relief to our customers to help offset some of these dramatic increases in PCIA. The other balancing act that we're trying to perform is sort of the antithetical message of opting down to our customers. But the most important priority for CEA is to increase the amount of renewable energy resources on the grid, to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions, and so aggressively marketing to our customers to opt down to a lower percentage renewable product is again, it's a challenge, it's a balancing act. We want to do enough marketing to organizations, groups, and customers who could really benefit from that, but also not just fully market it to everyone so that we have this mass opt-down and there, and we'll then be at risk of not meeting our renewable energy targets. That said, the board was comfortable with doing this for 2026, during which time we will monitor the number of opt-outs. We'll report back to the board what we're seeing, as well as monitoring the next era forecast, which is in May when the IOU published the first forecast for 2027. See where PCIAs might be landing. It'll take some time, but at the end of the year, we will have a better idea whether or not this kind of rate relief credit is something we want to continue to provide for our customers at the clean impact level. So that concludes the report, I believe. And I just, sorry, the final financial projection, there's one more. As you can see there, with this rate relief program or credit, we're not impacting our bottom line all that much. You can see here we're already actually, by the way, projected to finish above budget. You can see on the left side, our projected change in net position budget was 35.8 million. We're already looking at a better than budgeted 43.4 million. With this proposal, again, if all those assumptions and thresholds are met, we'd be at just below 40 million. The days liquidity on hand would drop from a projected 88 to 84, still above our budget projection of 81. And our final calendar year projection estimate of fiscal year, you can see the days liquidity on hand drops only by 9 to from 135 to 126. So again, it doesn't have a dramatic impact on that financial standing and keeps us in good fiscal standing. As I mentioned, we have a communication strategy to target certain members of the community, member cities, provide information to board members, to you all, to stakeholders, social media, and that will be targeted to communities of concern. We just launched a bill calculator tool on our website that helps people compare their costs as compared to SDG&E, again, in the interest of full transparency. And we have other FAQs and articles that we'll make available to our board as well as members of the CAC. And then we plan to engage in some customer rate-related webinars so that customers who are looking to save some money can do so. So that is what our plan is. And as I mentioned, the board did take action on this, approve this, both for residential and non-residential customers. The rate relief credit went into effect as of February 1st, and we also effectuated a 6.9% agricultural customers, which, by the way, a customer class that is very engaged. We're engaged with them. We interact with them on a regular basis. We can farm bureau meetings, and they are a very involved group. It's that rate to go into effect on February 4th. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know it's a lot of information, but the summary is that these rate relief credits are there for the clean impact product. Customers have to opt down into that if they're not already in it to enjoy that rate relief, and it will be in effect this year as we monitor it.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Any questions? Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, John Mosier from San Marcos. I just want to say, like Mr. Wade said, the last few meetings, few board meetings of last year, we're going over this, and the PCIA problems are having to fight those charges and try and get them reduced, and the ongoing battle for that. There was a really good board meeting at the end of January where this was presented to us, and at that time there was a gentleman from Union Tribune here. And I read an article that he wrote a few days after the meeting, and he did a very good job of summarizing exactly what's going on, and also telling the people that in order to get the discount, you would have to opt down to the lowest level that we've got. So I know you're doing outreach for the community, but that article, well, actually is a good one to use as a template for reaching out. It's very easy to read and it makes sense.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Member DeCino?
Page Destino with all of that.
what's this impact, on our portfolio? Because we have contracts and got a lot of people opting down, how's that gonna affect?
Yeah, so again, the assumptions that I put before you and put before the board, as I mentioned, are quite conservative. So even with those opt-downs, it's not gonna dramatically impact our overall revenue, or sorry, our portfolio. And, we are actually, it's interesting because this year we're supposed to be looking at the possibility of upping our impact renewable product to 55% as opposed to 50. So that we still will continue to do. May change the rate credit next year if we still apply it, but it's really not going to have a dramatic impact on our portfolio because our Clean Impact Plus product already is at 50% renewable. It's really the marginal difference there is the carbon-free product, mostly large hydro, some nuclear and geothermal. Those are the kinds of products that change to the Clean Impact Plus. So it really doesn't impact our portfolio all that much.
Anybody else? Any
Yes.
other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Joe from Vista. I had maybe I'm just missing something. Number one, could we get a copy of the article that John referenced, emailed
Was
to
that the UT article or the Coast article?
whichever one John was referring to? I don't know.
I thought it was SDG&E. I mean, I'm sorry, Union Tribune.
Okay, Union Tribune.
Sure.
Thank you. Next question, and this maybe I just don't understand, but I read recently that SDG&E rate raises this year were such that their rates were higher than SDCP's 100% product, the green impact. So is that true for CEA also?
No, it is not.
And the next question was, did you consider, or could you consider, looking at the portfolio of people who are late, especially really late on their payments, and have a balance that they're unable to pay off, and give them some extra consideration in terms of discounts or lower rates? I realize that would be providing some imbalance, but there are clearly people who really need help can be providing some of that.
The answer to that is, I suppose we could look at all of those options, but I guess the board's direction was to proceed with this program, doing that on that kind of granular level and looking at our list for ongoing, late payments would take some time and some doing. I just don't know that the board would support that. I don't know that they wouldn't, but that would be a pretty heavy lift to look at our arrearage customers who are in arrears and target them for rate relief credits. Again, something that could be done. I just don't know that our board would be, that didn't come up in board discussions, so we haven't really actively pursued that.
Well, I wouldn't expect it to come up in our capitalist environment here, but I would ask you to consider exploring that and seeing what the impact might be, or the cost impact of what you've done here, and consider bringing that to the board for some further adjustments. If not this year, certainly in the next cycle of rate adjustments or rate relief.
We can't hear over here. Is your mic working?
I don't know, is it?
Now it is.
Oh, it's my turning my face.
Okay. So we didn't hear what you said.
Did you want him to repeat that so you guys can hear? Do you want to repeat your comments back to Greg so everybody?
Yeah, the last comment was, even though the board might resist, I would ask that some research be done to see what the impact would be of providing further rate relief of people who are seriously behind on their bill. They're obviously having financial stress. And while it's not a capitalist way of looking at the situation that we're in, it might be a desirable thing from a social point of view.
My understanding, and Greg, you can help me out here, is that if they are behind on their bill and struggling, they still have, they still can engage with a program similar to what SDG&E offers for a payment plan or a relief. If you make the payment plan number for so many months, you can get full relief of the backed up bill. That, I believe, is in place. Am I right about that? Maybe you want to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was just gonna make that point that one of the parts of our outreach in the FAQs is to direct people to a number of other options that they have. So our marketing material that we plan to present to you all and provide to others has the listing both in English and Spanish of all of these different rate relief measures. There's an arrearage management plan. There is, obviously care and fair customers. So there's payment plans that can be arrearage management payment plans, level pay programs. There's all these programs that SDG offers, and we offer as well through them. So those are the ways in which we're trying to get to folks to say, hey, there are a lot of opportunities for you to save some costs on the energy. I think the challenge in what is being suggested will be that you mentioned it earlier is on the equitability of having a rate reduction for a specified rather than a specified class or low income folks, just to target it to people who haven't been paying may present some challenges. So again, we're looking at all and every option that we have to get people the information to help save money. But on our agent report, what we typically find is that the people that are behind would probably do better to enroll in one of these other programs, contact SDG&E, and get some great relief that way, because they can be much more meaningful than just applying a credit to their bills. The ability to pay is when we're talking here about the credit being 3.8 cents per kilowatt hour, $13 to some may not be a lot, but it is to others. Whether or not that's going to make the difference between the ability to pay and not is a question we just don't know, and not likely make a big difference to their ability to pay. But again, we're looking at all of these things.
All right, Member Dominguez?
Yes, Dan Dominguez, Oceanside. I was taking a look at the information that the Secretary sent out. And one of the things that kind of caught my eye was this issue of payment plans. And so I requested information regarding the delinquent accounts again, because I heard they were going down. But what did not make sense to me was on page 16 of the report, talks about payment plans, and it says that participation in payment plans is relatively low across member cities, averaging about 2% of all customers. Escondido shows the highest enrollment at approximately 4%. Oceanside, Vista, and San Marcos each report a participation around 3%. In contrast, Carlsbad and higher income communities, Solana Beach and Del Mar, have the lowest payment plan enrollment rates. So it just didn't make sense to me. So I was gonna look into it some more and maybe discuss why people are not taking participation in payment plans if they're behind or they're in arrears on their bills.
Yeah, I think that the quickest answer is just there's no awareness of the programs. It's just unfamiliar with that, a lack of knowledge, but there's also the potential of just sort of daunting looking into that possibility. And so part of what we're trying to do is sort of provide the information, let them know, hey, these programs are there, this is available, provide direct links, and also offer assistance if we can. It can be daunting to anyone to, okay, you can save some money if you contact SDG&E, well, they're the ones who charge you, maybe a lack of trust, that kind of thing. So our hope is that by engaging with these customers, putting the information out there, saying that these programs are available, can help some customers. Not going to help all of them, but get more people to take advantage of them because they're out there. And you're right; those percentages are low. We do have a higher, participation rate for care, not for FARA, but for care customers. There's a pretty high participation rate, and that can save quite a bit of money for a family, up to 30% on your energy cost. So it's just about trying to get the information out there, and that's what we're trying to do.
And I know there's an application for that to be involved in those programs too. So that's another thing you have to provide some financial background to be eligible for the relief. My understanding. Are there any other questions on this item? Yes, and promotion.
Okay, John Mosier, San Marcos. On that article I'm talking about, it is a State of the Union Tribune. It is on January the 30th is when it comes out.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Paige, did you have a comment? No? Anybody else? Okay. Mika?
Hi, I am Mika Natalini from Solana Beach. My question is that, so how long this option, opt-down option will be available? And this option is targeting the low-income population or people in general? That's my question. The reason I'm asking you this is because there are many cities, including Solana Beach. It's sort of counting on many people opt up to reduce meeting the city's goal for greenhouse gas reduction. And so that's a little bit seem like encouraging people to take off down. It's a little bit conflict, maybe conflict with that cap or and the city's direction to that, to how much greenhouse gas is reduced to using of the pump. So how do I actually talk to that member of the CSC, in that CSC, I mean, climate action mission about this opt-down option?
We appreciate the question, and as I mentioned, that was the sort of the delicate balancing act that we have to look at for this, because, it's antithetical to our sort of mission, if you will, to encourage people to opt down to a lower carbon-free product. And let me stress that it's carbon-free. The reduction is lower carbon-free, not lower renewable. The renewable amount of renewable is the same. It's that 25%, additional carbon-free that the Clean Impact Plus product has. Again, looking at this holistically in terms of trying to provide rate relief with a PCIA that is exorbitantly high this year, we felt it important that we provide some sort of option for customers. But we fell short, but because of that desire to maintain our GHG reduction targets and whatnot, we felt also that it should not be across the board, you're getting this reduction. It's a proactive step that customers have to take. And so customers, again, much like they have the option to opt down today or opt up, can choose their desire. Is the extra amount I'm paying for 75% carbon free worth it to me rather than having to opt down? And to some customers that the answer is yes. We don't really even or concern ourselves with 100% renewable because those people proactively already opted up. So it's very unlikely that, unless they're really on a constrained budget, that they're going to say, yeah, this is too much, I'm opting down. So our feeling is that the number of people who will take advantage of this is not going to do much to significantly move the needle on our emissions reductions. This would be in place to answer your question for this year. It's for an 11-month process, projection, 11 months for this year. During which time we'll assess how many people opt down. You know, if they start opting down in much higher numbers than we anticipated, that will be an indicator that, okay, we may need to take a look at our rates holistically next year. And also, where are we going to land the PCIAs next year? If the PCIAs come down slightly, and not a lot of people took advantage of this, there may not be a need to keep this rate reduction. Or the opposite could be true, because not a lot of people are taking that option, we keep it in place so that we still have that benefit for people who do need some rate relief. Again, our interest in our outreach is to target, to the extent possible, groups, communities of concerns, customers, folks that really could benefit from this lower cost on the clean impact, which is, as you say, encouraging them to opt down. So again, trying to balance, do that balance of what is appropriate given our respective goals of GHG emissions and cost competitiveness.
Right, we have two more questions, Member Barn.
Tracy Barner, Escondido. As you've mentioned, this is a balancing act, I can recognize that. And I just wanted to begin by saying that I wanted to applaud the staff and the board for doing this in the first place, because my understanding at least that San Diego Community Power did not. And so I'm really happy that we are doing this. And following on the previous question, I want to kind of look at it from a different perspective. We've had a lot of discussion about the opportunity for people to opt down and targeted marketing to just reach the people that need to hear that message or to attempt to do that. But I want to kind of turn the ball around a little bit and think about the people that we would hope might be opting up. And I wonder if that might be part of one of the next items we're going to be talking about in the energy programs plan. I'm just curious about how you think about the messaging that would be happening, trying to get the people who can to be moving up to 100%. And likewise with the peak smart savers, which could be in there too in the next agenda item. How are you thinking about encouraging people to move up if they can? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And yes, that is something that we are constantly looking at ways to do. And even this committee itself has had subcommittees to look at ways to do that. And I think members of the committee, as well as their staff, will tell you it's a challenge to get people in large numbers to opt up despite our best efforts. I think our best shot really is to continue to work with our member agencies. I'm encouraged that another member agency, the City of San Marcos, is looking to opt up as municipal accounts. That to me is a really significant way in which we can increase those numbers. We also are having member agencies looking at opting up the default of their city. And so we've developed a default product opt-up policy in response to that. So those are the efforts that I think will have the most impact at the bottom line. We'll continue to highlight Green Impact Champions, our independent commercial and residential customers that choose to opt up and be a Green Impact Champion. That's going to be something we approach. We're developing a key accounts program where we're going to engage with a lot of those larger accounts to see if we can move the needle on some of those. Really focus our areas where there can be more of a dramatic impact to what we're trying to do there. Trying to get residential customers on a customer by customer basis to opt up can be a challenge. That doesn't mean we're going to stop trying. So those are just some of the ways in which we think we can focus our attention to real meaningful discussion. Additionally, we are going to start to have conversations about our long-term portfolio needs. We already have started that conversation with the board because our renewal, as I mentioned, our renewable targets are meant to escalate over time. Our 50% is supposed to increase to 55 to 60. We're already above the state mandated 60% renewable target for 2060 and carbon-free target. And we've got to start to have a discussion with the board about what that looks like. So whether we do it by changing the RPS for each product on our own independently, that's one way to handle it. Keep in mind, our goal is 100% renewable by 2035. So it's a combination of all these things. In the interim and the near term to get larger scale opt-outs, and in the long term, just moving up our RPS standard as we get closer to 2035.
All right, we have one more question, Member Grill.
Yes, Giles Graywell, Del Mar. Greg, I know you talked about targeted marketing to those clients that could benefit from the rate subsidy. Is it going to show up on their bills? Is it going to be specifically an email? I mean, what kind of marketing are you really going to do? Because there are, there's a lot of information out there and people really don't pay attention. Even those who actually need the help. So I'm just wondering what strategies you're going to employ.
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's not going to be anything that's going to be a bill insert. It's for us, it's going to be, a combination of social media, meeting with these groups. We've developed a good working relationship with Universidad Popular through our energy programs plan. We've met a lot of groups, governmental agencies, organizations that we are actively engaged with, and it's really largely it's about getting the information to them. Part of our program is to get our board members and they have a desire to be involved in this, to have the information, to put it on their own social media platforms, to put it out to their constituents, to the communities they hear from. By and large, many of our board members still hear from customers that, hey, these costs are going up. And so it's that direct communication that I hope either by word of mouth or by direct provision of the documents or the flyers that we're going to be handing out and putting on social media that they'll take advantage of. We're not naive to the fact that it's not going to get to everybody. And even if it does, not everybody's going to take advantage of it. I think the statistics on SGPE's programs, which have been in place for many years, speak to that. But the targeting that we're talking about is the groups that we know that we've met with in member agency cities that have talked to us about the affordability challenges they have, whether they be non-governmental organizations, governmental organizations, community groups, those kinds of groups are people that we plan to get this information to.
All right, I just have a couple of quick questions and we'll move on. One is, who's carrying your legislation for the TCIA transparency bill?
Yeah, and so that
To me, that's where the focus needs to be.
right, and this is
Clearly, that's an opportunity.
yeah, this is very recent information, but it's Assembly Bill 1761, and the author is Chris Rogers. He's out of Northern California. He's a former city council member for the city of Santa Rosa and a former board member of Sonoma Clean Power. And so an excellent author for that bill who's very familiar with these things. So that's the bill, that's the author.
Okay, that's great. And then I guess this is just a wondering, you don't have to address it, but once the adjustment for next year after this 11 months, I'm just wondering, do we have concern that we're going to have people peel back to SGGA because they've gotten a reduction and now we're kind of creeping back up and we're playing with that because we got them locked in right now. Now we're kind of, I understand the need for relief. I'm just thinking if anybody thought about that unintended consequence when that 11 months ago.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that is a concern. And I think the answer is we have to wait and see. We have to see what kind of impact this has, how many customers opt down, and yeah, if at the end of the year there's so many that this is okay. It's just for the sake of argument, say it's well in excess of $10.6 million. Is this something the board wants to continue to provide to that product customer enrollment? That'll be a decision at that point, and we recognize that if it is no, we've got to stop this, that could then have the impact that we were trying to avoid in the first place, which is people opting out. And so it's really a matter of monitoring this. We're working with Calpine to make sure that we're monitoring on a weekly basis the level of opt-outs, but it really depends on how many people do so. If, on the other hand, we don't see near as many as the assumptions in our analysis assumed, it may not be a heavy lift for us to say, let's keep this in place. So we still have that tool.
All right, that's great, and I appreciate all your questions. We are gonna move on now to item number 4, which is energy programs plan, and we will be receiving updates on various programs and provide feedback.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to programs analyst, Karen. Yes, Senor, it's been presented.
Can you hear me okay? Let me just make sure I adjust this so that virtual people can hear me too. Is this okay? All right. Good afternoon, members of the CAC. This is my first time presenting to this group, so I do want to introduce myself first. My name is Karen Villasenor. I am the programs analyst with Clean Energy Alliance. I help support the day-to-day operations of our community energy programs. And I will be presenting our energy programs plan draft for you today. All right, so before we get fully started, I want to just ask this group to keep a couple things in mind. So first, this is a draft of the plan. You all received this via email last week. And your input here today and your written comments that we ask that you provide by tomorrow will be considered for the final draft of this plan. Secondly, all individual programs and initiatives that we discuss in this plan today are going to require board approval even after this this energy programs plan or a version of it is approved by the board. And so first off, just a little bit of an introduction and an overview of the purpose of this plan. We went to the drawing board and started creating this plan as a way to support our foundation. So we have our CEA strategic plan, right? The third guiding principle in that plan is to provide beneficial customer programs. So offer a variety of programs that serve the needs of our customers, promote affordability, and further reduce greenhouse gas emissions. What this energy programs plan helps us do is it helps us establish a flexible framework for evaluating and implementing future programs for our customers. The programs recommended here are grounded in direct community feedback and they are aligned with CEA's mission and strategic goals. Ultimately, what this plan will help us do is ensure that CEA is focused on programs that support CEA's mission and are informed by community feedback and research. And before we move forward, I'm gonna just continue to adjust this because I feel like I'm moving down to before we get.
I like everyone just a skosh more space.
It's just like really low, so I'm like, crouched there, yeah. Can you help me how to work this? Yes, I'm kind of tall. All right, I think that's better. So I want to start off by talking about the community engagement that went into the development of this plan. We took 3 steps here to make sure that we were gathering input from the community. So we definitely okay, okay. So this is still capturing my audio?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so I keep wanting to speak into it, okay. So we did a community needs survey. We also gathered input from community workshops, which we did in partnership with a local community group. And we also gathered some perspectives from member cities. Our partnership for the community needs survey was with True North Research. So you might have already seen the results from this survey and or heard of it. It was conducted back in April 2025. So this was a scientific survey. We targeted a random sample of residential and commercial customers. Participants were surveyed on their awareness, their opinions, priorities, and behaviors related to energy issues. A overview of these key findings was presented to the board back in April 22. That says 2026, but that means 2025. So if you're interested in getting a more extensive overview of these results, you can also go back and watch that board meeting. Some of the key themes I will outline right now were affordability. We know already that's one of the #1 priority for customers. Customers strongly prefer programs that provide energy savings, rebates, discounted rates, and support for solar and storage. Additionally, there is a pretty solid interest in energy audits and efficiency upgrades, but lower interest in some all-electric requirements. I also mentioned that we did a series of community workshops. This was a partnership with Universidad Popular, which I believe many of you are familiar with, and they really helped us get in touch with certain members of the community that are sometimes referred to as hard to reach members of the community. We hosted 7 bilingual workshops across the EA service area. We engaged participants in open discussions, guided discussions that focused on energy topics. And I'll note that these guided discussions, again, we partnered with Universidad Popular, which they helped us create discussion guides that really helped us communicate with customers who might not be familiar with a lot of these energy terms that we might use behind the scenes. So we really had some good discussions with members of the public, and you'll see here on this slide a listing of the various workshops, and I will also just offer a thank you here because I know that many of our CEC members here were present at those workshops. And other component of our community engagement was actually surveying our staff contacts at member cities and kind of understanding their city-specific priorities. We also, of course, reviewed each of their climate action plans and kind of went over what kind of priorities they've already listed in these plans that they've done plenty of work on as well. Now, jumping into some of the research that we did internally, using some of the tools that we have on hand, we did do a analysis of our customer demographics and energy usage patterns. These were conducted using our usual census data, but also some internal CEA data so that we could gather a customer profile, right? And understand where our customers are focused, so what energy products they've chosen, Clean Impact Plus, Clean Impact, Green Impact, which we already kind of generally understand, but also understanding, and you'll see a graph here on this slide, the solar adoption in each of our member cities. So this is data that we reviewed internally. We just to go over some of the observations here. With our demographics, of course, there's a wide variation across cities in income, languages spoken, and amount of housing units. Some of the, again, you'll see here, solar adoption does average around 20%, and I think we know that there's a bit of a higher adoption here in San Diego County overall, but if you look at Escondido and San Marcos, those are some of the cities that have some of that higher solar adoption when you look at the solar customers and non-solar customers. So the service area analysis, our demographics, our energy use patterns, this analysis guided the customization really of the programs that we will talk about in a bit and some of the pillars that we formed around them. So going into the pillars, you'll see them listed here. There's 4: clean energy supply and grid resilience, building electrification and energy efficiency, transportation and electrification, local workforce, and community education. So before going into some of the details of these pillars, I'll note that they were chosen and developed as part of this research that I just spoke about. They align with community priorities, with our member city clean climate action plans and CEA's long-term goals and mission. So for the first pillar here, this is focused on expanding clean energy resources, increasing the day load, and really strengthening our community resilience through distributed energy resources. Under building electrification and energy efficiency, our second pillar, this is focused on reducing emissions, right, and also energy costs by transitioning buildings from fossil fuels to clean electricity sources, and really improving overall energy performance. Our third pillar, transportation and electrification. This aims to accelerate the shift to zero emission transportation by expanding electric vehicle adoption and charging infrastructure. And last but not least, local workforce and community education. So here we're focused on preparing the region for a clean energy future. We want to invest in local talents and empower communities through education. On this slide, we get a little bit into the more technical details of what went into the program initiatives that you'll see in the following slides. So this is the lens through which we are looking at the program initiatives, peak reduction value. And before we move in, I know that many of you might have already looked at the report, the written report, and this is explained in there if you want a deeper look, and also has some what we're calling stoplights, so colors associated with our these program initiatives. But I'll give a broad overview here of what each of these means. So peak reduction value, we are looking at the impact of a program on CEA's peak load. The second one, renewable content value. This is how the program supports achieving 100% renewable energy. Revenue impact, how programs affect CEA revenue. And finally, anticipated administrative costs. This is the expected costs and efforts to operate the program. And before moving into these program initiatives, again, this is kind of the lens that we were looking at these specific program concepts, and the business case analysis here was used as part of a combination of factors, right? Looking at these together and guiding how we assigned timing and the timeline framework for these programs. We have some short-term programs, near-term programs, programs that we want to see within the next couple of years. We have some midterm programs that we're thinking of 3 to 4 years, and finally some long-term programs that we want to look at further into the future. And with that, I'll go into each of the program initiatives that we see in each of these pillars. So for our first pillar, we are looking at really, and you'll see that some of these, one of these at least is labeled ongoing, but some of the residential and commercial solar and storage programs that we've already been focused on, and really setting us up to have the infrastructure needed for some of the longer term programs that we'll be looking at in future slides. We also have demand response programs. So one of our key priorities here is expanding our current Smart Seekers program to commercial customers, since right now it is only available to residential. Additionally, load flexibility and virtual power plant incentives. Meaning we want to help aggregate distributed energy resources to support the grid. And finally, we want to look at the potential of providing 100% renewable energy to low-income households who may need a discounted option in order to reach that goal of purchasing 100% renewable energy. For our second pillar, we look at building electrification and energy efficiency. So this includes electrification incentives, incentives that would mean it is easier for our customers to switch from gas to high efficiency electric tools. Additionally, we're looking at energy efficiency kits that we can provide for our customers in general, but also focus on low-income qualified households. These energy efficiency kits could include something like energy efficiency, electric strips, smart sockets, lamps, things of that nature. And then finally here, we have a concept of a building electrification navigator that would support hands-on support for medium-sized businesses and public agencies to get to that point of electrification. Our transportation electrification pillar is focused on helping make electric vehicle adoption more accessible and grid friendly. So some of the initiatives that we've outlined here are rebates for EV charging infrastructure, multi-unit dwelling solutions for buildings that need access to EV infrastructure but don't yet have it. Additionally, some managed charging incentives, integrated with, a virtual power plant, that helps us shift charging to midday solar hours. And finally, fleet electrification partnerships with our member cities and school districts. And our last pillar here, local workforce and community education. These initiatives listed here help ensure that the benefits of clean energy reach all customers and build long-term community capacity. We want to have the ability to help our community organizations support income qualified programs and community-led initiatives through what we're labeling here a clean energy equity fund. Additionally, we want to partner with workforce training and pre-apprenticeship partnerships through, for example, the California Energy Commission and SDN. And finally, we want to have the ability to provide some grants to member agencies and nonprofits to support new local climate solutions. And I missed one. The last one here is building upon energy literacy and education. So I know that we're, as a group, all very interested in bringing more education, energy education to our customers and making sure that they're understanding what programs we offer, who CEA is, where they can find payment assistance, for example. So this is an ongoing initiative that we would want to support and include in this plan to make sure that we're providing that education needed for our customers. With that, I'll talk a little bit about next steps. So I mentioned it already at the beginning of this meeting, but we want to implement the CEC's feedback. So this is a draft plan, and any input, comments that you have today will be considered for this final version. And the goal is to present this to our board at the March board meeting.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I know that Paige and I have been on this committee a long time, and I'm starting to see some of the things that we've been talking about our committee work show up in your plans, so that's very encouraging. We're listening that we are providing benefit, I guess, so I'm happy to see that, and I don't know if others saw that as well. We are now going to be taking verbal comments or questions. The opportunity will still be available for us to make written comments. And what did you say your deadline was for written comment? You have tomorrow, right? At what time? End of day?
End of day.
Okay. All right. So with that, do we have any comments? Okay. Member Dominguez.
Ms. Villasenor, I had a question. I saw your presentation on the pillars. It follows the pillars that were put on that were sent out in the email, but it was missing. I had a question on is all the pillars, they had a value of either peak reduction, renewable content, revenue sales impact, and administrative cost. And I looked at the legend, and the legend only listed red and green. Red meant that it increased what was it, the generation? Yeah.
All increased.
Yeah, all increases. And then the green was reductions in peak load, that's what it was, peak load. But it didn't give what amber meant, and I assumed they had some gray areas. Those that were, the gray was not evaluated. Is that what that meant?
Thank you for your question. So on the legend, there are 4 different colors. Sorry. So we have, you're right, we have a dark green, we have a green, we have a red, and we have it does look more like amber, but I think it's supposed to be a little bit more yellow or light red. So the dark green and the dark red, those are both indicators of the, I'll need to use an example here, but for example, with peak reduction value, a program that has an impact on CEA's peak load and reduces CEA's peak load would be a dark green. A lighter green would be a program that could potentially reduce CEA's peak load, but that's not something that we're directly seeing in that exact program, the details of the program. And then the same would be for the opposite. So the dark red would be a program that directly increases the peak value, the peak load of CEA, whereas the lighter shade would be a program that indirectly reduces. So it's a little bit of a gauge. With that comment though, I believe based on the written comments that we received, there was at least one other one asking about the color and the way that it's being understood. So we can go in and definitely adjust that so that it's a little bit more user friendly.
That would be great. And then I do have a comment. I was gonna submit some written comments, but I was, since you opened the door for verbal comments, I'll throw out the comment is, there was a news article in the New York Times about balcony solar. There's 2 barriers. First off, electrical rates are not going down. They're just gonna continue to increase. There's nothing in the foreseeable future that will drive rates down. So really, to reduce your costs, you have to either use solar or create more energy efficiency in the home, but I think most people are already maxed out on some of the energy efficiency, right? Solar. So the barriers to solar are the cost and the, if you're a renter, landlord prohibitions. Whereas balcony solar doesn't have those barriers. It's normally the plug-in solar, it could be anywhere from under $1,000 to over. It doesn't, use up all it doesn't account for all the power in your home, but it does reduce your bill. And it's popular in states like Germany. Utah has authorized it, California is looking at it, but I'm not naive. I've worked for a utility for 40 years. I've been in coalitions with unions, and I've advocated at the PUC. It's going to be a heavy lift to try to approve this because the unions will come out against it, the utilities will come out against it. But from the perspective of the CEA, we should at least study this program in case something does come by and be prepared to understand and maybe get involved with it, because you can hook up, you can buy these plug-in solar panels, right? And offset portion, your refrigerator, they have systems that are 3,000 kilowatts. You can use a Jackery or an EcoFlow battery power pack, right? You could charge during the cheap period of electrical rates, which is midday, and then use that to offset during the high rate. So, long story short, that would be my suggestion in a program to see a look at the systems. See, get ahead of the curve in case that the state of California does something or it does come out. I have the Unified article forwarded to Ms. Alacron, so she can send to everybody else.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you, and, we're gonna go to Member DeCita. Did you have a question? No, not right. Okay, Member Hope.
Thank you, Joe from Vista. Technical detail first. Those slides are absolutely unreadable from here. Happily, I have printed copy. May I suggest that you use a different color palette, like dark blue with yellow lettering, something that's readable, you know, at a distance, at least for me. Maybe it's just my age or whatever, but I know there are much more readable color palettes. Please use them.
Yes, thank you.
I would like to second the comments about plug-in solar. We should be offering it or and recommending it. Also, there are from a marketing point of view, there are tools like heat maps that I would ask CEA to use, build a heat map of each city. And then in the communities where there's particularly higher temperatures, heat maps typically often find a 10-degree difference, sometimes more, in temperature in different communities in the same city. In those places where there are high temperatures, focus on those for things like community solar and the plug-in solar and so forth. Let's consider using some of the technologies. Let's also really support, I would argue for really supporting community solar. You know, citizens in meetings, like we get a lot of this data, are going to ask about these things because they probably don't know that they exist. You know, it's not, you know, we expect them to, I think, ask about them. And Australia, building on the point that was just made, is offering free hours a day in midday across the whole country, actually, in order to encourage people to be charging batteries and, you know, at midday when otherwise energy might be just disposed of, and thereby reducing the costs and balancing the load, trying to balance out some of the duck curve and so forth. So, you know, I think we should consider looking at those kinds of options. Thanks.
Okay, Member, did you want to reply or, okay, Member Daniels?
The first year I was on the CAC, I was on the schools committee, and I've taken that and I've run with it with our San Diego Building Electrification Coalition. And what we recommended, because SDG&E looked at schools years ago and said, well, they're not residences. So they took away their residential rate and made them a business. But they're not businesses, they don't make any money. They can't increase their profits in any way so that they can, you know, spend more. So, you know, their bills went sky high, millions and millions of dollars, okay? So what I'm asking for is if we could find another rate in the future just for schools, okay? Something in between residential and commercial, okay? That's my suggestion, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I like that going for schools. Okay, Member DeCino?
Just two quick questions. Could you define your term that you said mid, near, what year span are we talking about those?
Oh, yeah. So the question was to define the timing that we use. So near term, midterm, and long term. Near term being within the next couple of years or so. Midterm looks more at 2028. And then long term, we're looking at 2029, 2030.
All right, and my other question was, I know you took a lot of public input, and I'm just wondering how much you factored those considerations into your tables that we just reviewed. Like, for instance, a lot of people weren't too concerned about UV charging infrastructure, right? Were all those comments factored into your tables that you created?
Can you repeat that last part about EV chargers?
Well, I thought I read in some of the summary up earlier that EV charging stations wasn't a high priority for most of your respondents, right?
Right, so, yes, and something to just kind of looking back at everything as a whole, we did community engagement, right, through those 3 different methods. We also did some research and analysis internally of our customer profile, our energy load profile. So a combination of everything went into consideration of us looking at and determining what initiatives we include in here. I think from our perspective, there is kind of a argument to be made about the impact of going back to the peak load reduction of load shifting, and knowing that we do have plenty of EV chargers in the area and what impact that would have on our load. I will let Caitlin McGee add anything else to that if she would like.
Sorry, I'll just add to your question. I think what you're referring to is the community needs survey. In that data, I was actually surprised. We did find that that installing new EV charger infrastructure was actually not the highest priority for respondents. So that was reflected in how we prioritize which programs to move forward with first, right? So I think that one's more in the midterm section.
And then I have one other question. I noticed Carlsbad City had the highest energy use, even though we don't have the highest population. Is there any consideration to programs this would be more outreach, I guess, but it could also include energy efficiency on reaching those residents to make them aware of programs or practices, habits that they can do to lower that. That's cutting down on energy use.
There is a key part of that, actually. The reason that Carlsbad has the highest load in our service area is due to the Channelside desalination plant. So it is on the commercial side, and it is tied very specifically to one commercial user that puts that kind of ahead of the rest of the cities, even those with a higher population.
Okay, any other comments on member nomination?
It's to Mika Nagamini. I'm from Solana Beach. I am wondering that I was looking at that, so clean energy supply and grid resilience. That this chart, pillar chart 1 and 2, it seems like year-term and mid-term section tend to have a commercial customers. Do I actually hallucinating, or you're intentionally actually place commercial customer into that near-term or mid-term, short-term area? So that is that you are intentionally, so there maybe if there any purpose you are doing this, or just kind of happened to be this way? The reason I'm asking you is because if commercial customer tend to have a bigger roof space, bigger parking place. So what if CEA can convince them to have a more solar on their rooftop or parking location? They might be able to generate more excess energy. And then if they can do that, so their distribute excess energy to the community, distribute energy. And so that might potentially help reduce the cost of that. So the cost of that, the energy, because distribution distance is shorter than the PG bringing that energy from to here. So just wondering your intention about this.
And I hear, I'll just repeat, the question, let me know if I'm off base, but I think what I'm hearing is, advocacy for the commercial, solar and battery storage program, and then also a question about how defined and what promises being made here. So I'll start first by saying that this is a flexible programs plan, and this is, our guiding framework, right, for what we want to see for CEA over the next several years. At the same time, as you all know, we live in a space where there's a lot of regulation, there's a lot of market dynamics that go into place, so there's always going to be a flexibility here to kind of shift gears. So there's flexibility here, and it is a work plan, a guiding work plan. To the question about commercial solar and battery, I will say that is one where we can offer you some, I won't say promise, but more security in that this will be implemented, because we have already started rolling out our solar plus a business program, which is the commercial solar and battery storage program that we offer to our commercial customers. So we already, just from the looks of it, we've already been getting interest from both member agencies and school districts. So I think that there's going to be an opportunity there to move quickly and support those statements that you're making about commercial being a good tactic for us.
Okay, Member Mosher?
Thanks, John Mosher, San Marcos. I found the same difficulty with some of the conclusions of the polling related to, say, my city. I came from the bottom end, say lower income, and I knew what I expected them to say, and it didn't fit until I went through the charts. And I found if I took the demographic chart by the city, if I took the income by the city, and then I took the result, then it would make sense. The charging was more popular in the cities that actually have money. And the programs, rate reduction programs were more popular in the lower income areas. And I found similar tie-ins throughout the whole thing. So that is the way I found that actually started making sense. And I also had problem with the red and green, sent in a response, is that the red's being used to show an increase in demand and an increase in funds. That's a plus. And the green is the exact opposite. Well, everything I've been taught, green is good and red is bad. So my suggestion was switch those colors. And if we got a plus on the money side, we got a plus on the demand side, that's extra money. Green would make a lot more sense for that, and use the red on the opposite end. But like Daniel said, I had the same problem. I was trying to hunt to find the color guide, and the only thing I could find in one of the paragraphs was red and green. And then it just kind of figured the rest in between. One other thing I came across is for the portable solar generation devices. There's currently a bill, SB 868, by Senator Wiener. If you'll look into that, I'm not sure what you guys are following on that right now, but that would be a good one to check, because it's looking directly at what we're talking about the back of the balcony solar and all that stuff. So there is something in the works that they're trying to get through, so it would be good for our agency to look at it and see if we're supportive of that.
Just on that final note you made, I will say that I know there are people on our team who are tracking this legislation and will definitely take it into consideration.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? We have two more. We'll go with member Reed and then member Hope.
Did you do?
Kevin Norris from,
Oh, my God,
San
sorry.
Marcos. Piqued my interest when you talked about the EVs. Microphone. So the EVs and specifically municipal.
We can't hear. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No.
No. Barely. It's on. Hello? No, this way. I think it's on.
Just shows.
Hello? Try this one. Okay. I got it. Yeah, okay. So you, just talking a little bit about, pillar 3, transportation. Specifically the municipal and fleet. And I'm not sure what that covers when it says, vehicle fleet advisory services or incentives. Is that just pricing for the electricity or is that helping with infrastructure? I was meeting with Cal State San Marcos yesterday and they would love to get EVs, turn their whole fleet over, but the problem is the infrastructure is getting the chargers. They have the chargers, they're using them, and that hits everybody's climate action, every city. That's the biggest hit, our vehicles. So collectively as cities, we should be really looking at that. I mean, I get residential and what's affecting everybody there, but pollution is also affecting everybody, every city. So reducing CO2s with EVs. And just to add on to disadvantaged communities, electric vehicles are the cheapest use to use. I don't go to gas stations anymore, right? I charge at midnight, starts at midnight. And so that's also your heat reduction. There's no oil changes, there's no filter changes, there's on and on and on. And there are vehicles that are used EVs and even lower priced EVs that people can get available. Or maybe that's what we should look at, some incentives for disadvantaged communities to buy them, but we gotta put the chargers in first. So that's just me. And fleets, we can go back to schools, buses. All the parents or grandparents, whoever's picking their children up and dropping them off twice a day, and all the fuel that they're burning, CO2 in the atmosphere, right? If they had an electric bus, and a lot of them don't live far from the schools that they're going to. So I'd really like to push that. It's been a push for me since I've been on this. That's just me, sorry. But to go on to the colors, could we just do numbers? 1 being the most impact and 5 or 4 being the least? Make it easier or something, I don't know, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, we'll definitely take into consideration all those suggestions. I think I heard you say you wanted me to talk a little bit more about the the fleet electrification a little bit more. I will note a couple things. The full details, right, of these programs are going to be laid out in, there's gonna be just more extensive planning that goes into the details of the exact initiative. I will say that part of the reasoning for including this is due to there's legislation, right, that is going to require our member agencies to turn over their vehicle fleets to all electric by, I believe, 2045, if I'm thinking of it correctly. So I will say I don't think this would be a great incentive, but this would offer some other sort of incentive for potentially or technical assistance to help our member agencies reach those goals.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to pick up on the school discussion a little bit. The Vista School District has a green program, 100% clean energy. They also have 85 or 90% of the school buses are electric. And they ran into a problem of not having enough power coming to the school from SDG&E. And so it's infrastructure limitation, but there's a huge opportunity with schools. In the commercial solar program we're talking about, Poway School District signed a power purchase agreement to put solar on the schools throughout the district. And over a couple of decades, they say they're going to save $3 million in energy costs. How about CEA becoming the solar backbone for the school districts? And if you can do that for the school districts, I don't know all of the cities that are covered, but Vista as a city operates something like 50 buildings. And of course, the parking lots. If you offer the commercial program for those, for all of the city buildings owned and operated or whatever, and the parking lots, it would make a huge difference in solar installations and you know, reducing the energy. So there's two very large customer groups that you could reach out to partner, and they're already partnering. They've already, you know, already enjoying CEA. So what a wonderful opportunity to really build and lower the emissions and the cost for the schools and the cities.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on the plan proposal? I just have a couple of questions. Number one, we will receive in April the revised version of this plan and a deeper dive into the survey results. Is that what we should expect? Yes?
Yeah, I think there might have been just a repetition, and we plan to give you an update on the comments and the update on the plan, not necessarily a deep dive into
The survey. So, okay. Okay.
And if I could, I just wanted to thank staff and all the people who participated in the CAC on this. This was a lot of work to engage with the community. I was quite impressed with the outreach effort that was taken up and the amount of responsiveness we got from participation. It was encouraging to see that, particularly from groups of people who typically don't get engaged on these kinds of questions. So thank you to staff and thank you to the CAC members who participated.
Right. Well, I also want to thank you. It's clear that there was the pillars really help defining what your focus is. And then we use rubrics. I know some people have talked about the color versus, you know, a numerical assignment so that you could gauge the differential in a numerical or an analytic fashion. So I think there was good feedback there that might help in making this more translatable as you move forward. But great work. And again, it's really great to see that some of the work that we've been doing in our communities is being reflected in some of the plan that you have. So with that, I think that's the end of our member comments on this item. We will move to item number 5. Thank you very much. And I just want to remind, we have asked to add this to the agenda so that members representing their city can share to other members representing their city things that are going on, events, something that you attended or something like. It's not really a time to put ideas up to the agenda. That's a separate thing. This is just to allow members to share. You don't have to say anything. Like to put the number on 1 to 2 minutes because there's so many of us, you know, it's be another 30 minutes. So we will start at the end, but before we want to introduce our new board member, Ann Feedy. I believe that's correct, and let you introduce yourself. And then if you have something to share, and then you can just pass it down.
Okay, my name is Ann Feedy. I live in Del Mar. I'm on Del Mar's Sustainability Advisory Committee, and I've been on that for many years. I'm also a volunteer with San Diego 350 and a co-founder of the San Diego Building Electrification Coalition.
Linda Daniels, Carlsbad, And I'm on the San Diego Building Electrification Coalition, and I joined their schools committee after I started on my ad hoc committee here at CAC. So as a result, the best thing that's just happened, okay, exciting, Carlsbad now has no idling signs outside of all their schools because all the kids have no school buses, so the parents drop them off and they pick them up and they idle, and all the signs are different. There's one that's saying young moms at work, another one that says, keep your air clean, stop idling, and people have been going around taking me pictures and sending them to me, so if anybody wants to see all the pictures, or if you want to drive by the Carlsbad schools, hooray, we had a wonderful success. Bye.
And John Mosier, San Marcos. I just want to say I appreciate all the hard work on this and what I see at all the board meetings. And also I'm looking forward to, I think we're gonna have a presentation at our next city council meeting by CEA. So we're looking forward to that.
Dan Dominguez, Oceanside. I appreciate the energy program plans and also the survey. Very interesting. Always been kind of a data nerd, so I like looking at stuff like that. I just want to say that I have a meeting Monday that I'm going to prepare with Democratic Club, seniors, mobile home park residents, talking about the CA's rate reduction.
Paige, Carlos, I don't have any events or things, but I do have some questions. I know as part of the rate reduction, it might be nice for customers to be able to get a hold of their representatives on this committee, and yet we don't have anything on the website that allows anybody to contact us. So we did in the past, way before, and those got dropped, so I don't know how we can address that. That's one thing, and I just want to kind of follow up a little bit. Is it okay for us to get up in public comment for city council meetings and just mention the rate reduction program? So a lot of people watch those things virtually or in person and getting the message out.
Greg, do you want to respond to that? I believe it's okay, but wouldn't it be better if it's agendized for something on the regular city council board too? So that people can make public comments to the item.
Yeah, I think the challenge we had with the emails were that we had assigned emails, and that was a challenge to monitor all of that, but we can look into that. As far as you addressing your respective city councils about this option, there's nothing preventing you from doing that. I just want to make sure that you do it as a citizen and not as necessarily on behalf of the CAC, but I don't think there's anything preventing you. Ideally, it would be something potentially you're talking about on an agendized item. But public comment, there's nothing barring any committee member from letting the community and their council know about this.
I'm going to skip, so you go, I'll be willing to
Thank you very much for your presentation about program, energy programs. So I look forward to that revised version. And also, is it okay if I maybe give this copy to, is it a public document already or?
Is it a draft?
The version that you have is.
Yes, I know this is draft, but so someone may be interested in seeing this one, like within the city or.
Yes, so the version you have has been posted online as part of the public agenda. So could share it. People can grab it from the website as they please. It is a draft version, so there is a watermark there on the document, and there will be updates. We plan to take the final document to the board at the March meeting. Thank you.
Joe from Vista. I deeply connected to Rock County Climate Change Alliance and, Joe from Vista, I'm deeply connected to the North County Climate Change Alliance and the executive committee of the San Diego County Sierra Club. And Greg has presented to both, and absolutely wonderful presentations. And Rob is going to be doing a session with NCCCA in March. And, you know, we thank you for your wonderful participation and your great insights. By the way, I don't know whether I told you, Greg, but we got fabulous feedback, positive feedback from your presentation. So thank you again. And if anybody here is interested in presenting or knowing more about these organizations, just let me know. We have plenty of opportunity to get environmental messages out.
So Kevin, first of all, thank you for your presentation and all the hard work you did on this. Really appreciate that. Going to all the cities, gathering all this information. Kevin Norris from San Marcos, been on the planning commission here for the last 18 years. On the climate action plan working group as well. Recently retired from as a associate engineer at UC San Diego, where we did I was building commissioning and sustainability, installing over 900 EV chargers just on our campus. So it's a passion. Can you hear me? So just one other comment, and I noticed in your presentation that you had one of the highest turnouts in San Marcos at 88, I think it was. So really glad to see that, and the highest number of solar. We're trying to push that. So kudos to that. And yeah, thank you again for your work.
Tracy Garnian from Escondido, and again, echoing the thanks in the very detailed report and presentations. Really appreciate that and the time to digest it. And I just have one quick announcement that Escondido will be holding its Earth Day Festival on April 4th at 10 to 2. And I would love to see CEA there with the table, and I'd be happy to staff it for part of the time and hope that you all can come out and join us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of announcements before we close. I just wanted to recognize our members who did not return for service, Tracy Reed, Nancy Oshley, and Dolores Davies Jameson. Really want to thank them. I don't know if they're listening, but thank them for their work. And my question to Greg and staff is, do you recognize outgoing members of this committee? And if not, should we maybe try to do something like that? Like have the city, there's a certificate, I don't know, something like that.
Thank you, that's a great question. I don't know that I've seen that since I've been here, so I think we'll look into doing something.
I wonder if there's like a mug we could give them, I mean, just something to recognize the amount of time that they put in.
Yes.
And that it can be a lot of time, depending on what's going on.
Yeah,
So check into that. Also, I just, the website hasn't been updated with our new members yet, so maybe that's an opportunity to figure out how people can connect with us. And then the other thing was just don't forget the written comments for the program plans are due tomorrow by 5. It was unclear to me whether we had a draft that could be distributed publicly or if that draft is available for public comments somewhere on the website, because I did not understand that to be the case. So I just want some clarity on that before we close.
Correct. The draft that was shared with you is the same draft that is on the public agenda for this meeting. So there's no CAC version or public version, they're the same. And then there is not a public comment period for the plan. The thought is we did the feedback process and engagement through the community survey and those workshops and come back to the CAC for additional feedback that's represented in your communities.
Okay, so just to be clear, the public engagement was before in terms of formulating the plan. Okay, thank you for adding that clarity. And then finally, we are looking at, I believe, April 9th for our next meeting. We will wait to get more information from Anna about that and confirm. If that's the case, must be.
I'll go ahead and send an email to members.
Just take the whole thing up.
Okay, I'll be sending an email out to everyone regarding, the April 9th special meeting.
Okay, and just for everybody that, I know that we are making this effort for that meeting, that is it. So if you're gonna miss anything else on it, you just need to let, staff know that you won't be able to attend. Not gonna rearrange all the work they did, but I think for that one, we have a case because there's just a lot of conflicts with that one. So with that, we will be adjourning. It is 3:21, so thank you, everyone, and see you in April.